Welcome to the Lived Stories channel.
Like the video and subscribe for more.
I stood on my own porch watching a woman I didn't know curate my life into stacks. She fanned my envelopes like tarot cards, utility bill, pizza coupons, a glossy catalog with a dog on the cover, and then slid the important-looking ones under her arm as if she'd practiced the gesture. Her calmness did something to my spine. Panic is loud. Certainty whispers. She was whispering. "Can I help you?" she asked from my doorway with my air under my lamp. The sentence floated out of a mouth that had learned the neighborhood's tone in less than a week. My brain did the arithmetic and refused the answer. "I'm the owner," I said, "the password of adulthood, the sentence you expect to open everything it touches." The words left my mouth like a key you've used 1,000 times. They didn't turn anything. "The owner doesn't live here anymore," she replied, and raised a lanyard holding my keys. The metal teeth flashed in the porch light like a warning from the future. Behind her, a rug I didn't own warmed the floor I paid for. A lamp I did own made an obedient circle on the wall, as if home were a stage light that could be pointed at anyone. She held up a folder, white, orderly, with a tab labeled Lease. "We have a signed contract," she said matter-of-factly. "You signed." The way she said it was not a challenge, it was a weather report. There are moments that split your life into before and "please tell me this is a joke." I felt my mouth get dry enough to subtract vowels from my next sentence. "I never signed anything," I said, but even my certainty sounded like it needed ID. If a signature can erase a person, who holds the eraser? If a stranger can relocate you with your own name, what are doors even for? Keep listening. By the end, the ghost behind that folder will have a face, an address that isn't a brass rectangle, and a very boring ending that looks exactly like a form in a file cabinet. Boring is victory. Hook to carry forward. A stranger with your keys is a break-in. A stranger with your signature is an eviction you never saw.
The week before this conversation, my life was a photo you forget to frame because you see it every day. The coffee maker gurgled itself awake at 6:28. The thermostat clicked to eco at 8 like an assistant who never calls in sick. The porch camera pinged my neighbor Tom at 8:13, carrying 2 boxes and a smile. He texted me a picture of the cat that uses our front step to audition for better porches. "Judging you," he wrote, and the cat's face agreed. There is a choreography to leaving town that looks like superstition and is actually devotion. Photograph the stove. Photograph the thermostat. Unplug the bedroom lamp that flickered that one time and therefore lives on probation. Tell Tom the dates and a decoy return time in case anyone listening likes schedules. Snap the deadbolt twice, then once more for the version of you who checks again after the car is already in gear. On the plane, I watched a show where houses get fixed inside an hour and everyone hugs in the last 5 minutes. I laughed at a backsplash that sparkled like a promise. Somewhere, a listing with my kitchen photos and my flooring and my couch cropped just out of frame was being posted for people who wanted a quick yes. We were teaching each other different morals about home in the same hour. When I landed, I expected the ordinary parade. Suitcase, porch, key, couch. Nothing in the choreography told me it was about to be replaced by improvisation. Reflective beat. There's a false comfort in how predictable we make our lives. Predators love predictable.
Sunday evening had that end-of-week tang. Rain thinking about it, sprinkler is giving up, neighbors coaxing grills into one more steak. I bumped my suitcase up the step and slid my key into the deadbolt, a move so familiar my hand could have done it without me. The lock refused, like a friend who'd found new friends while you were gone. I jiggled the key, tilted the key, performed the secret ritual of irritation. The barrel answered with a polite, baffled no. My phone chirped, available networks, home sweet home. The universe loves punchlines, especially when you don't. The door opened from the inside. The woman in house shoes, the texture of them was confidence, stood in my doorway with my mail and my lamp and a calm that made my anger feel unprofessional. "You must be a friend of the previous owner," she said, like someone explaining a policy to an airline passenger. "We moved in Thursday. The property manager said you might stop by for a package." "Who's the property manager?" I asked. My voice chose steady because it wanted something to stand on. "RD Solutions," she said. "He had the keys, the forms, the HOA packet, everything." She lifted the lanyard and my keys clicked on each other like small bones. If you've never watched your key live a second life without you, it is a very specific kind of nausea. I stepped back because forward was off the menu. The porch light hummed, and I suddenly understood the neighbors who talked to their houses. Mine was trying to warn me and had only electricity for words. Retention. The lock didn't just refuse, it declared jurisdiction change. Paper had voted, and I had missed the election.
She opened the folder. Inside, a lease with my name in a font that liked itself. My old driver's license number and a signature that stole the little impatient hook I make at the end of my last name when I'm late. It was my handwriting's imposter, a good one, the way a cover band is good. It knows the chorus and hopes you won't notice it forgot the bridge. There was a pet's addendum for a pet I don't have, a parking addendum that assigned my garage to a car I had never met. The landlord's address was a suite on a street that sells subs and cell phone cases. The email belonged to a free domain used by people who want to look official from the front and disappear out the back. She opened the folder. Inside, a lease with my name in a font that liked itself. My old driver's license number and a signature that stole the little impatient hook I make at the end of my last name when I'm late. It was my handwriting's imposter, a good one, the way a cover band is good. It knows the chorus and hopes you won't notice it forgot the bridge. There was a pet's addendum for a pet I don't have, a parking addendum that assigned my garage to a car I had never met. The landlord's address was a suite on a street that sells subs and cell phone cases. The email belonged to a free domain used by people who want to look official from the front and disappear out the back. "If you try to come in," she said, still marshmallow polite, "we can call for a sheriff's standby." He said former tenants sometimes get emotional. Former tenants. I'd been demoted by a sentence and a clipboard. As if conjured, a cruiser slid to the curb with the reluctance of a man who has broken up enough arguments to recognize a new one by smell. The deputy's tone was the customer service voice of the law. "This is civil," he said. "Don't force entry. If you believe there's fraud, take it to court." I wanted to ask him how to put disappointment in a file folder. Instead, I sat in my car and called numbers like I was cracking a safe. Title company, bank, insurer, county recorder. After hours, voicemail, please hold. I texted Tom, "My key doesn't work." He replied with a photo from Thursday, a moving truck angled weirdly across my driveway. "Thought you hired movers," he wrote. I stared at the timestamp like it might confess. Reflective beat. The law is not cold, only slow. The gap between those two facts is where ghosts move furniture.
At 8:59 a.m. Monday, I was a person shaped like a question in the HOA office,
The manager, Karen, because of course, flipped the open sign with the seriousness of a judge and slid a clipboard toward me. "We have the lease on file," she said, and gestured with a pen that had the HOA logo on it as if this endowed the pen with sacraments. "Owner's signature here, tenant registration here." "Does looks in order have a definition?" I asked, not entirely gently. She frowned, which meant I'd violated the social contract of the lobby. On page 3, in a font designed to be ignored, an addendum. "Owner authorizes property manager RD Solutions, LLC." I had never heard of them. The address was a suite I recognized as a mailbox store. "It rents seriousness by the month. If you can afford $29 and a laminated card, you too can become a building." I searched the state's business registry. RD Solutions was a toddler, created last month, registered agent a different mailbox across town. The LLC had no website, no license number, no poor Yelp reviews, which is its own kind of review. "Do you keep IDs?" I asked. "She verified them and hand them back," she said. It was a sentence with a shrug baked in. In other words, we looked, we believed, and now the past is a smell in the room. I requested copies. She printed them warm. The header font smiled at me like a waiter who calls you boss. Retention. Ghosts rent walls by borrowing fonts. The trick works because offices love routine more than they love questions.
I messaged the tenants and asked for a coffee shop with a lot of daylight. We sat at a table that had seen breakups and resumes and last-minute algebra. They looked like people who had been running for a week. I recognized the defensive tilt to their shoulders. It's what your body does when you're not sure whether you need to apologize or explain. "I'm not here to fight you," I began. "I'm here to fight the hole we all fell into." They exhaled. Then they told me about the listing. Facebook Marketplace, same photos as my real listing from 3 years ago, my couch amputated out of frame. The ad had urgency. Available immediately. Owner relocating. Discount if you can move by Thursday. They called. A cheerful voice sent voice notes instead of taking calls. "Out of the country," he explained. "Property manager will handle everything." The property manager wore a reflective vest, which in America is close to a uniform. He had a badge on a lanyard and a clipboard with the HOA logo, printed from the internet, but at 6 feet away, confidence looks the same. "First to wire gets the keys," he said. They wired. Friends and family, no buyer protections. A little box arrived with a bow and a welcome home card printed on cardstock thick enough to feel like a promise. Keys inside. The locks worked. When locks work, so does your belief. "We didn't want to be the bad guys," the woman said, her voice smaller now. "We just needed a place." She glanced at the door as if this cafe too might move. I left with screenshots, wire confirmations, email headers, the photo they took of themselves in my doorway at 3:14 p.m. on Thursday, 20 minutes after Tom texted me a photo of the truck. I told them we would partner, not sue. Victims who fight each other are what scammers harvest. Reflective beat. Don't confuse desperation with malice. To a ghost landlord, both look equally rentable.
At my temporary not home, I opened the PDF of the lease and turned into the most boring kind of detective, the kind who asks fonts for their papers. Document properties, author, Ryan, producer, an online editor with a neon logo. Created 2 hours before the supposed signing. The font list included a cheerful headline typeface not used by the HOA. Ghosts always choose fonts with good posture. The signature was a scan. I knew because of the smudge on the tail of my Y, left by a pen that misbehaved at a bank 2 summers ago. The signature had been lifted from a different document and pasted into a life it didn't belong to. It's not that the signature was wrong, it was displaced, like me. The listing photos' EXIF data showed they had been exported through a phone I didn't own. The web page's source code contained a tracking pixel tied to an email analytics service that logs opens by IP and time. The property manager had been efficient. Efficiency leaves footprints. I gathered timestamps into a timeline and taped it to my fridge, a spine made of minutes. Thursday, 2:31 p.m. Email sent, we're almost there. 2:49, thermostat set to 74 degrees Fahrenheit. 3:14, tenant selfie in my doorway. 3:28, neighbor photo of moving truck. 3:39, welcome home message from the ghost. Retention. You don't always need a confession. Sometimes you just need a schedule.
The detective sounded tired in the way only people who read fraud summaries before coffee can sound. Mailbox LLCs, he said. Civil until it isn't. They move fast so the police step back, then they slow down so courts drag. He wasn't cynical, he was calibrated. We need a human. The law eats paperwork for breakfast, but it dines on faces. My attorney, Palmer, did not sound tired. Paper beats keys, he said. We'll beat paper with better paper. We filed an expedited unlawful detainer. Plaintiff, me. Defendants, John Doe Landlord, aka RD Solutions LLC. We attached my deed, utility logs, travel itinerary, HOA packet, and tenant declarations with screenshots. We requested a writ of possession and a sheriff's reentry. We made a binder that could serve as a doorstop. Any smart devices? Palmer asked. I remembered the thermostat, my winter indulgence. It snaps a picture when someone changes the temperature. Thursday, 2:49 p.m., a man in a reflective vest points toward my ceiling like he's leading a tour. A lanyard dangles. The print on the badge, when you zoom past taste, reads RD Solutions. The tenant's nod in the background, innocent as arithmetic. We printed that frame. We added it to a tab labeled Evidence in capital letters, because sometimes you have to remind yourself what counts.
Palmer wrote the kind of email scammers can smell across town. Ready to move today, cash available, need fast. 10 minutes later, a reply arrived with a familiar signature block, the same mailbox suite address, the same breezy tone that sells urgency as kindness. He suggested a virtual tour. He discouraged calls in favor of voice notes. He proposed friends and family for speed. He had 3 other applicants on standby. Scarcity turns brains into credit cards. We insisted on a cash handoff at the mailbox store for speed. He suggested we meet near the copier because the office was being painted. Scammers have a script. When they improvise, they quote themselves. The detective parked 2 rows over and pretended to check his tire pressure. A reflective vest appeared, clipboard in hand. Lanyard bounced. The man checked the P.O. box, turned, and saw 2 people who looked like a question and 1 who looked like an answer. He wasn't Ryan. Of course he wasn't. He was a runner, a pickup man who gets 5% of the mess for moving the story forward. His bag contained 2 blank leases for 2 different addresses, a USB stick labeled Forms, and a stack of welcome home cards thick enough to stop a bullet. He had no last names in his phone, only emojis and street names. His wrists had a small tattoo, 3 triangles meeting at their tips. He loved the word contractor. He used it like a disinfectant. Cliffhanger. We had a runner. Money would give us a brain. Brains like to stand still when cash arrives.
Follow the wire and it becomes a river. The tenant's deposit traveled from their app to a cheery username, then hopped through a fintech maze designed to look like innovation and sometimes used like camouflage. The last hop burped cash at an ATM stuck to a gas station that still sells maps. Cameras do not innovate, they remember. Footage, a guy in a cap, mask below his nose because confidence is allergic to rules, triangles on his wrist like an unfinished warning sign. The detective froze the frame, printed, and compared it with the mailbox application RD Solutions used to rent seriousness by the month. The application included a scanned ID, eerily crisp because fakes like to brag, and a selfie in the plexiglass reflection. Triangles again, wrist, right side. The bank logs gave us timestamps. The mailbox store gave us an IP log, one you're not supposed to have, but the owner was tired of being a confessional for ghosts. The phone company gave us tower pings, the dots connected in a shape that looked like an apartment complex 2 towns over where mail goes to change names. Meanwhile, the county recorder confirmed my deed was undisturbed, my name seated like a quiet king on a throne nobody visits until taxes are due. The scam never touched the title. It touched the story around the title. That's all it needed. Palmer arranged the evidence like choir parts: soprano at timestamps, alto metadata, tenor photos, bass declarations. When you sung them together, they harmonized into "You're done."
The courtroom was beige in that particular governmental way that suggests aesthetics were tried and rejected. The judge had the measured face of someone who believes in punctuation. Our binder sat on the table like a brick of narrative. RD Solutions did not appear. Ghosts dislike roll call. We presented the deed, the travel itinerary, the HOA file with its eager font, the thermostat still frame that caught a vest mid-gesture, the mailbox application with triangles, the ATM photo with triangles, the email string, the tenants' declarations, which were clear and human and free of blame. We did not bring adjectives unless they could testify. The judge said, "Writ of possession granted. Sheriff to supervise re-entry within 48 hours." The sentence wore no cape, but the room breathed differently after it spoke. In the hallway, the tenants cried in the relieved way you cry after you learn a new rule and it doesn't devour you. We hugged the way people who have been in the same ocean hug, the kind that surprises you because you didn't know you were swimming. Retention? Paper had been weaponized. Now it was a shield. That's what courts are for on a good day.
2 days later, the sheriff met me at my porch with a nod that translated to, "I've seen worse. I'm glad this is you today." The tenants had packed. The woman, her name was Lila, and names matter because villains rarely sign them, handed me my keys and said, "I'm sorry," the way people do when they're apologizing for a world they did not break. We walked through rooms that behaved correctly and felt wrong. Someone else's mug sat in my sink. A sticky note on my fridge read, "When's HOA?" in a handwriting that had learned my calendar faster than I had. The thermostat blinked 72 degrees Fahrenheit like a patient pupil. The rug was not my rug. The lemon cleaner smell tried too hard. The sheriff waited on the porch until the latch made that tight, decisive click I'd missed. "We see a lot of this now," he said, conversational. "It works because most people are decent. Decent people obey paper even when paper is lying." He offered a pamphlet. Title alerts, recorder notifications, credit freezes, habits that feel paranoid until they feel like seatbelts. That night, I changed locks until my hands stopped telling me to. I installed cameras that keep memories for when I run out. I split my mail into 2 addresses, legal to a P.O. box too boring to scam. The rest, home, because I still live here. I slept on the couch in my shoes, which is a superstition that makes dawn hurry. Reflective beat. There is a sound a door makes when it is yours again. It's not a click, it's a small permission.
The runner with triangles wore a plea deal like a raincoat. He gave up a name that wasn't Ryan. He gave up a storage unit with vests and badges and key boxes arranged like inventory in a hardware store owned by a magician. He gave up text threads from a number saved as R,
instructions typed like recipes for theft. Detectives knocked on an apartment door 2 towns over. Inside, a corkboard with street maps and pushpins. A printer with more toner than a student can afford. Spreadsheets with columns of addresses, deposits, move-in dates. A tower of welcome home cards that made the detective laugh without joy. The man at the table had a face that likes fluorescent lighting, the kind you find in rooms you shouldn't be comfortable in. He tried a speech. "Victimless," he said. "People got housing." The detective pointed at the tenants' declarations, pointed at my binder, pointed at the ATM photos. "Victimless would mean nobody cried," he said. It didn't end in a monologue or a television chase. It ended in forms. It ended in accounts frozen, equipment boxed, evidence tagged, and a docket clerk writing a case number nobody will remember except the people who needed it. Reflective beat. Villains are rarely masterminds. They are usually enthusiasts with templates.
Home returns slowly, like color after you step from shade into sun. Tom sat on the stoop with a pizza and talked about who trimmed their hedges too enthusiastically and which neighbor's kid had learned to ride a bike in secret and announced it by screaming down the cul-de-sac. Nothing we said mattered, which is how you know it mattered. Lila emailed a photo from her new place with the subject line, "Found a real landlord. Thank you." In the picture, the rug fit the room in a way mine never had for her. She looked tired in a way that meant sleeping soon. I posted a straightforward account on the community page. Not a rant, a map. Where the listing was, what the documents looked like, what the mailbox store's suite actually meant. 5 neighbors signed up for recorder alerts that night. The HOA rewrote its intake process. License verification, ID retention with privacy safeguards, no mailbox addresses without a bonded local agent, random audits. They learned that careful is a verb, not a mood. I developed tiny rituals. Photograph any letter with authority before opening it, forward anything official to an email folder named boring but important so I stop ignoring it, write dates on the inside flap of any envelope that tried to scare me, then file it where fear can't reach. Retention, recovery isn't a montage, it's a calendar.
This is the part where I hand you the seatbelt I wish someone had handed me. Freeze your credit. It's not a moral judgment, it's a lock. Unfreeze only when you need to. Thieves leave when the store's closed. Set county recorder alerts. Many counties will email you if anyone files a deed, lien, or anything with your parcel number or name. Let your phone become the neighbor who never sleeps. Treat urgency as suspicious. Real property managers don't prefer friends and family. Real leases are finalized in offices or via platforms with traceable approvals. Real humans take phone calls, then video calls inside the property showing ID that matches documents. If a person hates cameras, they love shadows. Ask for proof of ownership that you can verify. A masked mortgage statement or tax bill paired with a government ID, or a title report reference you confirm with the title company. Don't just see it, cross-check it. Honest landlords will feel safer when you do. Use smarter paper. Write down every conversation as an email summary and ask the other party to confirm. The point is not to litigate your life. The point is to leave tracks on purpose so you can out-track the people who rely on your politeness. This isn't about distrust as a personality. It's about distrust as a process. Wear it like a raincoat. You can still be kind inside it.
Weeks later, I watched the porch cam at dusk and saw a box of light fall onto my hardwood like it remembered me. Houses, I've learned, are 2 things, wood and story. The wood stayed. My story had been borrowed and returned with fingerprints on it. I wiped them off with routines. I unlocked the door without noticing, which is the highest praise you can give a lock.
I put the kettle on and stood in a kitchen that belongs to the version of me who believes in kettles. I thought about the lease with my name and not my hand, about the runner with triangles, about the brain who thought renting out other people's quiet was a business plan. I thought about Tom's pizza and Leela's new rug, and the judge who said 7 words and changed the temperature of a room. If this story helps you say, "Show me proof" 5 minutes before you wire a deposit, then the week I lost returns with interest. If it teaches a board to love questions more than routines, then the ghost's rent finally came due. If it convinces even one mailbox store to learn what sweet is for and what it isn't, then a small hinge just turned a big door. I keep the fake lease in a folder labeled Lessons because spite ages badly and evidence ages beautifully. When friends move, I hand them a list. When the county offers a new alert, I sign up without rolling my eyes. When the porch camera catches the cat judging me, I feel grateful that the only stranger on my step has whiskers. The house knows my name again. The paper does too. That's the ending I wanted, and the beginning I didn't know I'd need.